dream again. We are the emissaries from the void. Test.
Testing.
Test successful. The first test I've passed in a long time.
You've tested positive for emissaries from the void. That's who we are.
Yep, we're here. We're here in your ears right now, infesting you with emissaries from the void.
Mm-hmm. You know, when you listen into the void
infects you with...
infests your ears. I don't know. We're talking about a silly movie today. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit silly.
You know, it was a really silly movie. That's true. But it also had a lot to say, I think. And I kind of appreciated it on that level. Before we even get started, it really kind of is interesting that we accidentally aligned with kind of a theme of active volcano into possibly in Michigan into this, because it kind of had a similar vibe throughout. Active volcanoes are very strange and weird. And then possibly Michigan's more cohesive than that. Yeah. And then this is the most cohesive of the three, but they're all very similar in their dreamlike surrealist qualities.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just kind of what I was thinking about. I was like, wow, we accidentally did that lined up pretty well, we just, because we randomly rolled for this, we were back to the list and randomly rolling. And when you first described to me the premise of this movie, I have to say I was not expecting what we did.
It's hard to set people up for the right expectations. We're talking about the movie Head, which is the Monkees movie.
We didn't even introduce ourselves.
I'm Tristan.
And I'm Ari. Oh my God. We're doing things out of order this time because this movie does things out of order.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe the end will be the beginning. Probably not.
I kind of liked what they did with that whole thing. So this film is produced by a band called the Monkees. It is not really about the band. It's not like a biopic or anything like that. They had a TV show that was ostensibly sort of similar. Yeah, it's kind of it's the same skit quality of Saturday Night Live or whatever. They're playing roles throughout the entire movie in vignettes, and then they tie all those vignettes together.
Yeah, it's kind of like, have you seen Kentucky Fried Movie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like a surrealist Kentucky Fried Movie.
It also kind of reminded me of the Onion movie.
I haven't seen that.
So the Onion movie is a vulgar comedy from the early 2000s. It's not it didn't remind me of it thematically or in tone. But the Onion movie does the same thing, where it's a series of vignettes, and then the end pulls all those vignettes together into the final resolution of the plot. Basically, there's a through line plot, but it's very it takes a back seat to the in the face gags that they're doing in each of the vignettes, which is what we have here. Anyway, it was made for a budget of $750,000. I think this was back in 1968, but it only made $16,000 at box office. It was a massive bomb, and even more so for the time period, because they, with inflation, this is probably like a $2 million budget basically, and then they made $50,000 in today's money. Crazy loss on investment. And a lot of the reviews for this film basically just talk about it as they didn't really... the Monkees had an audience.
Right.
And they didn't make this film with that audience in mind.
Right.
And they make several jokes throughout this film about how they're trying to rebrand their image. So they were aware that they were doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The movie is kind of about them trying to break out of their box and the futility of doing that. But they ultimately did. I think, which ruined their careers.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they wanted.
I did listen to some of their music after watching this film. I'm a tourist fan of the 60s and 70s. I'm not some super vinyl head that loves that genre. My genre of music is punk. I can tell you a lot about punk and a lot about folk, because those are the two genres I listen to the most. But when it comes to, and there's a lot of good folk from the 60s and 70s, but when I say I'm a tourist, I mean I like CCR.
Right. Yeah. Personally, I had kind of a classic rock phase in high school. I got really into the Beatles.
And that's fair. And I've listened to a lot of Beatles. I kind of count Beatles as their own thing, because they're kind of you know what I mean? Like there's like so many
They
people
transcend genre.
Well, so many people know who they are and they have no idea about any of the genre elements that build into what they made. Like it's and really when people talk about the Beatles, they're talking about Sgt. Pepper and they're talking about the White Album. They're really not talking about a lot of the other albums when people talk about them.
I haven't been around those people, I guess.
I'm just saying, like when a normie talks about the Beatles and they're referring to songs, they're really referring to their later discography. But that's beside the point. The point is, though, is that it's a good transition segue into what was this movie about, Tristan?
This movie is very scattered and very kind of skit-like you mentioned. But there is a sort of philosophy that emerges, and I think it's really summed up pretty explicitly by the Hindu master and Peter by proxy, you know, talking about the way that our brains process information and how it's very difficult for the human brain to distinguish between reality and the vividly imagined, as he puts it.
I mean, that makes sense because you think about it like, what is reality but our defined perception of the stimuli that we're encountering?
Right.
You don't see reality. You in your brain are seeing an image construction of reality that is being made by your brain, and your brain uses all that same hardware when you're hallucinating or when you're, you know, like the reason why hallucinogenics work is because they hijack the part of your brain that says what's in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. So the movie is kind of an examination of like the images that we consume and like have constantly thrown at us. Like they put in real war footage.
They pull from other movies. They use clips from other movies, which is very interesting because like I had not seen a movie from this era use other media the way like because like
there's like the channel flipping segments.
There's one where it's very overt that they're channel flipping, and then there's a couple others where they're just like they cut to different like little clips, little like lines, or you hear audio tracks that are from other things because they're referencing older. Because when this movie was made, they're referencing movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the way that we would reference movies from the early 2000s, 90s, and 80s.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. Like it's this movie is like a good core sample of like the overall meta landscape of the era that it was made, because it's making like a lot of the aesthetic decisions that are made, a lot of the references that are made, they're very of their time, but also kind of timeless, because there is no generation of this country that hasn't been at war.
Yeah.
Like it's a very American film. And it's
absolutely
in what it's saying. And like all of the imagery of the war, they use the aesthetic of like Vietnam or Korea, those conflicts, the way that they're dressed, the actual military hardware and stuff like that, because it was contemporary of the time.
Yeah.
But you just as easily could copy, cut, and paste it to Bush era fucking Iraq and Afghanistan conflict, and it would be saying the same thing.
Yeah, and I think its message about the interpretation of information is extremely relevant in the age of generative AI.
Oh yeah, especially like, this movie was not made, like the creators of this film had no idea what was going to happen, but it's so relevant because this movie is about artifice, which just like another jewel in our crown over here of like movies that talk about artifice.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because like modern, like mainstream movies do not have a conversation about artifice the way that a lot of the movies we have been reviewing talk about it. Like if you go see like the latest Ghostbusters or whatever, it's not talking about artifice. Right. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's so interesting how common that theme has come up in these very different movies.
Yeah.
On the periphery of like people's, this is not the stuff that like most people watch when they sit down and watch a movie, but it is
right.
It is interesting how often this subject is brought up by these very disparate directors from these different walks of life, different time periods.
I have to think that like maybe it's got some sort of intrinsic link with expressionism or surrealism, which is kind of what we look for.
That's true. That's true. Like, what is the reality that you are perceiving? Is it real?
Yeah.
Are you real?
I'm just always gonna think of Stitch now. What was it? I'm human. Are you?
Are you? You don't need to die to go to hell. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, before I was rudely derailed by the
by
ghost
Stitch,
by the ghoulish apparition of Stitch.
Which maybe uses video collage in a similar way in that one scene.
That's true. The best scene of that movie does this technique that this film uses excessively. And I like what it's doing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think this movie was just ahead of its time. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because what I think it's about is about how often as artists, we want to be so genuine with our art, but we are prisoners to our cultures, to our inspirations, to our publishers. Like, so for example, I'm trying to write a novel. Am I going to self-publish that novel, or am I going to release it under a publisher? If I release it under a publisher, well, suddenly I'm beholden to all of these things that will impact how genuine my art feels. And I think that that's what they're kind of saying. I wouldn't blame the Monkees if they purposely tried to sabotage their career with this movie, because they wanted to be artists more than they wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
And that I can really feel that coming across in this film, is how bitter they are at their commodification.
Yeah.
Because they have that scene early on in the film where they get like ripped apart by the crowd and they become mannequins. And it's like, that only comes from a place of someone who started off with very pure intentions, but now has felt like they are now a product.
Yeah.
That's just something I can't relate to because I'm not famous.
Mm-hmm.
But think about this. Like, let's say we turn around and in 2 years, you and I have 1 million people listening to this podcast.
Right.
We're going to feel some of that pressure to like not talk about certain things, or, we got to edit certain things out to be advertiser friendly. And who knows 2 years from now what advertiser friendly is going to fucking mean on the internet.
Right.
I mean, when we started this podcast, one of the first things I said was like, I wasn't sure if we could say pedophile on our podcast because I had seen so many people edit that out of their own work. Like, because people just self-censor now. Like, I'm like looking on YouTube shorts and I'm like going through and I'll see like someone talking and then they censor words that make no fucking sense to censor. And no one's telling them to do this. They're doing it themselves because there's a bit of a black magic about what you can and can't present.
Exactly.
That mindset, I can see how easily that grows to be the level of just bitterness that this film was made with. Like, it's not like they're bitter in the cynical way. They're just like clearly resentful of the fact that they're seen in this way. They're boxed in this way.
Yeah.
Because they keep looping back to it. They keep looping around back to it. And the ending of the film is basically just saying, well, you're just a pretty thing on my shelf now. You like, before you had the illusion of freedom, but now I've completely deprived you of even that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned just before we started recording, watching Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, yes.
I think there's maybe a sort of similar dynamic between like that cynicism and this sort of like absurdist spin on it. Like, it's all fucked up. Let's just have fun with it.
Yeah. No, I can definitely relate to that. Although this film has more of a predestination element to it. Like, for example, Evelyn in Everything Everywhere All at Once, she's liberated by the fact that everything is happening. She can jump to a universe, any universe, and it's all happening. Everything has happened, will happen. She can jump to a universe where she's a billionaire. She can jump to a universe where she's in the process of being horribly murdered. She can jump to a universe where she's a skeleton person but somehow still alive. Like, when we get that reel of all the different universes and like you actually like freeze frame and like look at them, the implications of some of these realities are very silly. But that's the point. The point is that everything is happening, so nothing matters. But that's liberating to Evelyn because she realizes that takes a weight off her shoulders because she can do whatever she wants to do, and the consequences are so meaningless. Because let's say that she gets herself killed in one universe, she just jumps to a universe over where she didn't get killed. Whereas this one feels like more of like it has already been determined what will happen. Therefore, fighting it is pointless. Like, because throughout the film they keep trying to break the film. They walk off the set, they go and they start doing saying all these absurd things like, I want a milkshake with a hair in it or whatever, you know. And when they're first saying that, you're like, what are they getting at? And then they're revealing that they're just trying to break the system. But then it's revealed that this has been the plan all along. This has been the plan the whole time. That I feel is like, it's like almost like everything everywhere all at once could almost be like a response to what this movie is saying in a spiritual sense. Heads saying, well, nothing matters because it's already been determined, whereas everything everywhere all at once is saying nothing matters because everything possible can happen, and it's silly to try and think that anything matters when everything is happening, because why would it matter if you're a prisoner in a jail cell in one universe, the president of the fucking universe in the other universe?
Right. Yeah, so to briefly talk about the sort of structure of this film.
Sure.
Because there's no point trying to do a synopsis. It's very kind of stream of consciousness.
It does feel like a dream. Like,
yeah. But yeah, again, like kind of skits or sketches. Some of them are genuinely funny. Some of them are just kind of weird. And then there's also like musical segments, of course. Some of them are like kind of maybe trying to push the boundaries. I can't quite tell, because like there was the one in the middle that was like very stark black and white, very jazzy, fun number about something very sad. And I don't know if that's like a way of rebelling or if that's just
dissonance
of its
as
time.
Well, I mean, dissonance as like a tool, having a really upbeat song about something sad. I mean, that is a thing. Like, I didn't really like. I liked that. I thought it was good because I like dissonance as an art tool.
Yeah, that's my favorite musical number. Absolutely.
I think they're just making fun of the fact that people don't listen to lyrics. It's the same thing with "Hey Ya" by Outkast. It's just this super upbeat, glamorous song, but it's about fucking divorce.
Yeah.
Or like every Passion Pit song ever made is that.
Pumped Up Kicks.
Yeah, Pumped Up Kicks is about shooting up a fucking school.
Yep.
And like people dance to that, and like it is a good song. It's well made. But it's just one of those things where it's like Mark Foster of Foster the People came out and said that he wanted to make a song about killing hipsters that hipsters would dance to.
Yeah.
There is, like, when I talk about a level of bitterness in this film, I am referring to stuff like that where it's clearly they had things to vent about.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, despite the entire film's absurdity, I really liked the Coke machine in the desert at the beginning.
Yeah.
Basically, he's in the desert. He's so thirsty. He's like, I can't go on. And then the voice in his head is like, but you must go on. And then he looks up and he sees a Coke machine in the desert, and he goes up and he puts a coin in it, and then he's beating it up, and then it comes up with the empty. And I'm like, wow, this is like some like super art housey, like just very, very like surreal. And then I don't like the bit with the tank or whatever, but I liked the beginning of that bit because it was just so fucking silly and dreamlike, and just it kind of reminded me of Trigun, when there's a scene in Trigun where Vash is like crawling through the desert and he finds a water machine, and he like weakly tries to put some money into it, and then it's like broken, and he like beats on it. And, like, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Trigun like took that from this film. Yeah. Cause it's just so, it just has such a similar feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
anyway,
for sure.
We're all over the place. Like, this movie is all over the place.
Yeah. There's no way to
like seriously, when watching this movie, all I could think about was other movies, like and like other pieces of art that had been inspirational to me. And
I guess we can talk about the beginning, where some, I don't know, mayor or something is cutting the ribbon on this new suspension bridge, and it goes on for a long time with him just like trying to get the mic to work.
It was very real. I was like, when this film started, I was like, I was watching this. I was like, is this movie like really doing this right now? Like, I thought the whole movie was going to be like that, but then the rest of the movie is not like that. Like, it's so weird.
So like he's cutting this ribbon, but then the monkeys are running away from the crowd, chasing them, and they run through the ribbon, and then they like all jump off the bridge into the water, and then there's this like psychedelic scene,
which very much reminded me of Active Volcano.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There are mermaids, and then that kind of transitions to like this model making out with each of them.
She's listed as a groupie.
Okay, yeah.
And so the groupie goes around and kisses every single one of them, and then says she can't tell the difference between any of them.
Yeah.
Which again, there's some bitterness there probably. Like they want to be seen as individuals, but they're only seen as the entity that is the Monkees.
Yeah.
No one can tell them apart from each other, because to the average person it doesn't matter. What matters is that the Monkees keep doing the monkey thing with their show or whatever.
Right. They also have this sort of poem that sets up the premise or structure of the movie, or the fact that there isn't one. And they're like, we're going to jump all over the place, and at the end, maybe it's the beginning. And that does happen, where like the big chase sequence leads to them jumping off the bridge.
Which I really liked. I really liked that.
Yeah.
Here's an important detail from that as well that I think is really interesting, is that, and it sets up another thing that keeps happening in this film, is the screen zooms out. And so the part that we were looking at is now in the corner. Mm-hmm. And then each part of the movie is like shown, like teased. And then it ends with actual footage of someone being shot.
Yeah.
The poem ends with a gunshot, and I was like, oh, it's like This Is America from Charles Gambino. Like, it literally had the same feel of like, well, we're being silly, talking about how silly and meaningless all this is, and then boom, we're just gonna hit you in the face with someone being shot in the head.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
This movie was rated G, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's because it may not be real, but it's presented as real.
Was it not the Vietnam footage, or
I can't tell where it's from.
Editing Tristan dropping in to say that yes, it is that Vietnam execution footage, and if that doesn't immediately make an image pop into your head, just Google Vietnam execution video and it will pop right up.
No blood. You don't see any blood because it's all black and white. But it was there to disrupt you, because like the poem is talking about how we're gonna have so much fun and jokes and it doesn't mean anything, but then also here's some fucking violence. And the film keeps doing that, where it's cutting to violence, and then the very first vignette skit they do is war.
They're like dressed as cheerleaders. They're like, give me a W, give me an A, give me an R. What does that spell? War.
And then they cut over to war.
Bunch of like napalm and
gunfire.
Apocalypse Now shit.
Right, but then it's like they got a football player there because it's silly.
Well, that's after they get to like back to themselves, but like they have real war footage from Vietnam.
Right, and it's like this film jumps around in the same way that and uses the channel surfing imagery to, I think, represent the way that the average person interacts with and consumes art.
Yeah.
So you're watching stuff on whatever streaming platform, or you're on YouTube, and you're just cutting from video to video to video, and you're not thinking about all the work and effort that goes into anything you see. Like, this podcast is relatively low effort compared to like super high polished productions on YouTube.
Right.
But we still take so much of our time to make this. And someone just surfing through Podbean and just finding podcasts and like listens to the first 20 minutes of our first episode is not going to be thinking about all the work that it took to produce this show, the same way that someone who is channel surfing on television isn't thinking about that. Yeah. And then it's interspliced with the violence, the casual violence that is just ambiently happening in the background of...
Yeah, it's just kind of being fed to the masses.
Yeah, it's like you're just in the same way that the characters of this film are helpless to the fates that have already been determined for them. You are helpless to the saturation of media that is being fed into your eyes by people who make these algorithms, and people who, you know, back in the day it was advertisers who had control over what could and could not be aired on television and what people could and could not say. Like how in the 1950s and 60s a lot of shows couldn't get away with showing two people in the same bed because it violated decency standards. And those decency standards were propped up by advertisers who wanted to present this clean. So you had this idea of these man and wife who didn't even sleep in the same bed, but had 3 kids. So clearly they fucked.
Right.
But don't think about that. And nowadays, instead of the advertisers having the direct control, they can just pull their advertisement money, and then people can't afford to make the same art that they could. Like, if you rely on YouTube to make your living, or you rely on podcast money to make your living, if an advertiser pulls ads from you,
right, of course,
you lose your livelihood. And but it's the algorithm now that feeds you just more of what you were already watching, basically. And so a difference between when this film was made and if, say, we wanted to remake this movie today would be that in this film, you are a helpless observer to the cavalcade of weird and atrocity engine related things, whereas nowadays you are a prisoner to what a machine has decided you want to see more of.
Right.
But also an institution that edits and censors what you have a right to see because they don't want you to be watching things that make you not want to buy their brand.
Right.
So it's like a two-pronged, like the Hydra head is split now, and it's a two-pronged thing where on one hand, there's a financial incentive to make content a certain way. And on the other hand, there is a system in place that feeds you more of the same stuff that you already were watching. So you end up down a pipeline.
Right. Yeah.
With a distilled amount of what you already believed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think that all ties into the fact that they intersplice so much violent war footage and also interspliced with movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And, you know, the kind of stuff that you would just see saturated. Like, you know, you turned on your television in 1969 and you just saw the news talking about the war. You saw
old movies
being replayed. Advertisements.
Yeah.
And then you would cut to watching music.
Yeah, and the way that they're kind of montaging these things creates new meaning out of like the snippets of phrases being clipped together, which maybe says something about like the way that there's kind of subconscious messaging that comes out of this fire hose of information that we don't even necessarily understand.
That's true. The way that we view things is influenced by repetition. So if we constantly see themes coming up and stuff, it's going to shape how we relate to other things.
Yeah, repetition and context, I think. And by channel surfing, you're kind of removing the context or mixing up the context.
Right. Well, the context now becomes the association of various things with each other in ways that were not originally intended.
Yeah.
And nowadays, nobody our age channel surfs really anymore. Like we watch YouTube or we watch
or scroll TikTok
or whatever. And you know, if I'm on YouTube Shorts, which is a very bad addiction of mine, and I scroll from one video talking about D&D, and then I scroll up and it's a video about preparing food a certain way, and then I scroll up and it's a snippet from a video about the latest news thing. Those three things are completely unrelated to each other, but they form an image in my mind of what society is, you know, and like how, you know, you and I, we see discussions of artifice in the media that we're consuming to the point now that we'll probably start seeing it in things that didn't intend to have that conversation.
Right.
Because it's been such a common theme that it's altered the lens by which we are viewing media.
Now I kind of want this movie to be remade, like for this generation,
or maybe in spirit, like some like band.
Not literally remade, but yeah.
I think if anything, what I'll say about this film is that it is really, really good in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be. You know, it's like the show The Prisoner.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's one of those things where it's just ahead of its time, and as a Gen Z or millennial on the border between those two generations kind of person.
Hmm.
I definitely feel like I can appreciate both of those things, but this movie specifically better than the average person who would have gone to the theaters to watch it. Because for one, I don't have any baggage about the Monkees. I have never watched their show. I listened to some of the
Right.
music after watching this movie. And also, too, it's just so postmodern in its design philosophy that it's very on par with the current paradigm of art of this current generation.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting, and we talked about it being a flop, but it has kind of become a cult favorite in some circles.
And I see why. I see exactly why. It's just like The Prisoner. It's the same thing where it's gotten a like underground current modern day appreciation behind it because it's so much more in line with our current philosophies of art than the time period in which it was made.
Right.
You could almost see it as pioneering, like that current like just like jumping from vignette to vignette to vignette and having a loose story to tie it all together.
Yeah.
Very early 2000s design philosophy in terms of film making, because there were a lot of films like that came out in the 2000s.
Now, we did mention like Kentucky Fried Movie, which is kind of similar, but what makes this different is it's not just being silly and random. It's like doing it with kind of this more philosophical purpose behind it.
Each vignette has a purpose for what it's talking about, and it all ties into the idea of how you just can't escape, like you can't escape all of the principalities that can consume you when you are an artist who is famous.
I'm wondering if this movie influenced Mr. Show at all. Because
I can kind of see where you're getting at with that.
Like the way that they kind of thread their sketches together.
Yeah. You know, another detail that is very interesting is at least, I don't know, I don't remember it happening too much in the second half of the movie, but the first half of the movie had a lot of whitewashed eroticism in it. Whitewashed exoticism. Sorry.
Okay.
Whitewashed exoticism. What I mean by whitewashed exoticism is, like, for example, we cut to that the start of the next vignette where the two of them are in this like vaguely Middle Eastern, vaguely Indian, as in the continent, aesthetic, and all the girls are dancing, but they're all white.
Right.
And
right,
like they're smoking hookah and stuff. And it's like this idea of like, we want the exoticism aesthetic, but we always whitewash it with our Western European lens.
Yeah.
I don't know how often that comes up, but it definitely feels like it was very much present as that first. Because then and then the immediate next thing that we cut to is the other two of them on a set where one of them is dressed up with like stereotypical Native American overshirt, and they're killing a bunch of Native Americans, and the other one's dressed up like a Civil War era fucking cavalry.
Yeah,
and
this sort of like pulpy Western pastiche.
This American mythology is very present in this, like, we got to kill this savage horde that's coming after us.
Right,
and the Monkees are not in favor of this. They are critiquing it, but the presence of it is showing, and it's still present in today's fucking media.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell what is being critiqued and what is just a product of its time, because the 70s definitely had that big sort of like Eastern religion, very in vogue, Hare Krishna.
Although I think that we're being on par with the movie's point by perceiving it the way that we are. Like, I think that they would want us to be analyzing it like this, because that's kind of their point, is like, it doesn't really matter. Like, all of these different vignettes are their purpose is to just be art, and art, the discussion of art is for the observer, not for the artist necessarily, in my opinion. Like,
Right.
an artist can come out and be like, I intended X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But it's more of like especially with a film like this, I clearly read it as they were very much like, interpret what you want from this. See
Yeah.
it how you want to see it. Because we're just making this art, and we want you to have your own understanding of what we're doing. That's how I read it. With the with the intro the way that it is. Like, we're going to show you American media. We're going to show you the violence. We're going to show you the war. We're going to show you the absurdity. We're going to try and break free from it and come around to the fact that we ourselves are prisoners of this paradigm.
Yeah.
And, how do you feel about it? That's up to you, because that's the point, is that perception is so easily malleable, and context, like, it's the the Kuleshov effect is what it's called, where you cut an actor just with a blank face,
right,
and you intersplice that actor with other things, and it changes what people perceive the emotion of the scene to be.
Right. That sounds correct.
Do you have any final thoughts about this before we get into closing?
I don't think so, but traditionally more will come up.
More will come.
Yeah. So, Ari, what was one thing you liked and one thing you disliked about Head?
No head.
I thought at the beginning, like, how am I going to make a no head joke? And I abandoned it, but
yeah, that's the one thing I didn't like, was
picked it up.
There was no head.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
I've been sitting on that the whole time we've been recording.
Yep.
No, for real though. The one thing I liked the most, I liked how absolutely sarcastic the tone was in this whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's one thing I really like from the late 60s and 70s era of film. Like the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, for example. I love how fucking sarcastic that film is.
Yeah.
And it's lost on you. Like, if you're
wait, come back.
right, like, if you don't know, if you're one of the people that's unfortunate enough to like not pick up on sarcasm, those films,
I don't know how you'll interpret this.
Those films read very differently. But I really love the tone that this film was written in, and in service of that, I liked the specific themes they explored with that tone. It was like having a dream, but the dream is being orchestrated by the most sarcastic aspect of your own soul. Like, that's how it kind of read to me. And then the thing I liked the least, because I didn't really overtly hate any aspect of this film, which is a break for me, because I feel like I've had some scathing critiques of the last fucking 5 films we watched.
Have to put a content warning on this episode.
No, in modern terms, it's probably be rated PG.
Yeah.
But this movie is safe for the whole family, although I don't imagine your kids really getting it. Like, the only really overtly like graphic thing is that gunshot at the beginning, and then the war footage. But war footage is rated G. Like, if you watch a documentary on Nat Geo or whatever, it's fucking, like, we shouldn't be censoring reality from kids. It's not that it's not that this is too mature a topic for them. It's just it would go over their heads, and I can see why kids didn't like this film, because it just doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
If they had just called it Head and not had the Monkees branding on it, I think this film may have been more successful.
Maybe.
The thing I liked the least about this film was that it just really drags before the conclusion. I just kind of meanders a little bit, and I'm like, look, they had like 45 minutes of a point to make, and then after the 45 minutes are up, they kind of just are it felt like filler a little bit. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it just was like they made their point, and then they just kept making the point, and I was like, okay, well, we're good. I'm good now.
Yeah.
But then it wouldn't have been a feature-length film, so.
Right. Of course. Yeah, that was gonna be my dislike as well.
Maybe a more cohesive plot may have served this film a little bit better. Like, just not to take away the spirit of the dreamlike quality, but just have more of a through line, because they have a through line for the first few, and then they kind of drop that, and then they have a through line for the last few.
Yeah, it kind of gets more disconnected in the middle. Huh.
What about you? What's one thing you liked? And I already know the thing you disliked. So
Yeah. I'll start by saying that the first time I watched this movie, I didn't like it as much as I do now. Like you have to kind of sit with it for a bit. Because if you go in cold, it's just like a bunch of random shit.
which might be very well me your thing.
Sure,
I definitely I like this film better after I've sat with it. Yeah. It's kind of like you just gotta let it rest. It's like a nice steak.
Yeah. Let the juices redistribute.
Yeah.
Before cutting into it, as we have done now.
One of the few instances where the offline delays that came to us recording this podcast actually did some favors for my enjoyment of it. Because if I had to record this episode right after watching it, I would have been like, I would have been a little bit. I was like, because I was kind of bored watching it. Especially because I watched this film and then the very next day I streamed Everything Everywhere All at Once for my friends.
Yeah. Like compared to that, it's very low key.
Yeah.
I really like your I really like the sarcasm as well. Like we're really in sync about this one.
We're really in sync about this one, yeah.
Because like I want to say the sense of humor, but it's like kind of a layer above that.
Yeah, they're being sarcastic because they're a little bitter about how fame erodes art.
Yeah.
That's really what that's if I had to centralize the theme of this film down to one core thing, it is we are sarcastically bitter about what fame has done to our art.
Yeah. And like they're still being their silly characters. But yeah, it's just like this vibe on top of it where like you can kind of see what's behind it.
What's fueling them.
But it doesn't make it cynical. Like it's still silly. It's
they're not cynical. They're very much just like, we are frustrated about this and we are making this film to show that we can do other things than what we're known for. Like they're trying to make this be a bridge between what I assumed would have been a more adult oriented thing, like because the movie implies more the movie implies that more films can be made, like because she's like, I'm gonna put you on the shelf until the next film, and it's like, oh well, they could have easily made another film and then like the guy takes them off the shelf and they make another film. Like it would have been, you could see how that was kind of maybe their goal. I think their goal was to kill their careers so that they could just feel less pressure with their art. Yeah. Because, there's no saying they didn't go and make more art after this. Like, maybe they just were tired of what they were doing and they wanted to just do a change and they thought, well, we'll risk it on this movie. And if it pans out great, we'll be making something else. And if it doesn't, then we'll just be free of our obligations.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely curious about kind of the real world lore around the film. It's interesting to me that Jack Nicholson co-wrote and produced it.
And makes a cameo in it, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. There's also a good Frank Zappa cameo and Tor Johnson.
This movie has a deceptively star-studded cast, but it makes sense because the Monkees were very popular in their time. Yeah. So they were able to pull, they were able to do what's the modern equivalent, like,
I don't know, fucking Night in the Museum or something.
Oh yeah, like Ben Stiller. Yeah, it's like how Ben Stiller can just like summon a bunch of very popular people. Yeah.
One thing that I remembered now is the factory sequence and how it reminded me of Holy Mountain.
That's a good point. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're like touring this industrial facility and Davey is really distracted because he's noticing all the sort of like fucked up stuff. Like they go through this room where there's like people at desks and he looks back and one of their heads just falls off because he's a mannequin. And yeah, I don't even remember like what they're supposed to be producing, if it was even clear.
They're making a movie. Like
just like this is the industrial process of making a movie. Okay,
the movie is about them making a movie. Like and them realizing that they are commodities in that movie's production.
Yeah, yeah.
And like again, it's like when you become an artist on there's like tiers, right? So you've got us, we're outsider artists. We just do what we feel like, and we don't really answer to anyone for our art. We just make what we feel like. And then you've got semi-mainstream people who like are signed to a publishing label or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got B-list people who are popular, they have a lot of good stuff people like, but they don't have any control really over what their publisher wants them to do.
Right.
And then you've got the A-listers who can just who ascend past that point and can do whatever the fuck they want. Monkees would be in that B tier because they are popular, people love them, but they don't have a lot of creative control. And this movie was like them venting those feelings, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You either have to be an outsider artist like us, or you have to be a fucking A-list celebrity to have the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want.
Exactly.
If you're anywhere in the middle of these things, there are strings on you.
You're either Neil Breen or you're Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, basically. Or Scorsese or whatever.
Right.
Like, yeah, and that's why I love Neil Breen so much, because as a fellow outsider artist, he is just living his fucking dream and doing what he wants. And that I respect that, because I don't ever want to go through all the strings and all the fucking hoops and suck all the right dicks. And like I don't want to go into a back room with a Weinstein and suck their cocks so that they'll give me a fucking budget for something. That's not, I've never wanted that, but I want to make art. And I relate to that feeling in this of like how soulless and empty the manufacturing arm of these major studios is. Like when I in the scene you're talking about with the mannequin, I'm like, oh, that's just Disney. That's just Disney's corporate office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just like an animator who's paid like $40,000 a year to fucking draw this one part of the show over and over and over and over and over again. And that's all they do. Or like the people who get hired onto a major game development arm and then all they do is make tires.
Right. Yeah.
There is something to be said about AAA productions. They are fun. They are big. They have this massive budget. They're super hyper realistic or whatever. But all of my favorite things are made by like a small team.
Yeah. Maybe just one guy named Toby Fox.
Right. Yeah. Like, okay. So like, for example, the most mainstream game that I've played recently was Cyberpunk 2077.
Mm-hmm.
And that was made by like a relatively small group of people compared to how big some of these fucking development studios can get.
Right.
And even then I can see where creative vision was stifled in that game because of overarching corporate interests. Or like, everyone fucking loves Team Cherry. And it's like, what is it? It's like what, 5 people, what they said or something like that? It's a very small team.
I don't know.
It's such a small team.
And what did they do again?
Hollow Knight and
Silk
Song.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone loves that. Why does everyone love that? Because it was made by people who were just making what they wanted to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like or Morrowind.
It has a more consistency of vision.
Yeah, like Morrowind. Morrowind is my favorite Elder Scrolls game because it was made by a team who thought it was going to be the last game Bethesda ever made.
Yeah.
It was made by a group of people just doing what they wanted to do. They just made what they wanted to make. They had a vision, they made it. And to this day, it is my favorite Elder Scrolls game because Oblivion was made with a much bigger team. Mm-hmm. It was made to be a success, because Morrowind was a sleeper success. They didn't expect it.
Yeah.
This one, it was a big success. Like it was built from the ground up to be a success, and it was curated. Yeah. It simplified a bunch of mechanics. It did all of this stuff because they were intending it to be more mainstream, and all of that hurt its creative vision. And then you get up to like Skyrim, and I've put a lot of hours into fucking Skyrim when I was younger, but I can't play that game today because it just feels so soulless and empty. Like when I play this fucking game, like I can't. It doesn't resonate the same way that something made with a smaller team, made by people who actually like had love and passion for what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not to say that nobody had passion working on Skyrim. Clearly they did, but it's diluted. It's like I handed you a Coca-Cola. You drink a Coca-Cola, it's delicious. Yeah. Then tomorrow I hand you a Coca-Cola that's half watered down.
Right.
And then day 3 I hand you a Coca-Cola that's a fourth soda and the rest
Right.
is just water. Like, yeah, okay, you can taste the Coke in it still, but it's diluted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding like a bit of a fucking hipster snob over here, but that's
Maybe a
just-
little. No, I mean, all my favorite games are indie as well. Night in the Woods, one of my favorites.
I don't have a problem with mainstream art. I value art that's made by smaller groups of
Yeah,
people or
yeah.
individuals. Just because I don't know. Like, I just feel like once you get to a level of corporate interest, you lose stuff. You start making sacrifices.
Designed by committee takes the soul out of things.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
maybe there's still some soul left, but or you end up in a situation where you have a show like The Boys, which is directly criticizing a major corporation having their hands in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made by fucking Amazon.
Yep.
Where
Yep.
it's like, you're watching it and you're like, I can't tell if they're trolling or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, or like, how performative are they being? How genuine are they being when they say these things? Like, red washing is just as much of a thing as any other kind of washing that a company does. Like we whitewash history.
Yeah.
We like portray a movie where like World War II happens, and like we get like Captain America, the first Avenger, where World War II is this sanitized thing where the only people dying are soldiers on both sides, and we completely gloss over the fucking Nazis and the atrocities of World War II. You can't. There's like this I saw this sentiment. I don't know who said it, but it was like someone's like, you can't portray the Holocaust on film because it is impossible to make something that shows how horrible it is without completely isolating your audience. Like, you can't show it because it's such a vile, horrible thing that the only way to show it would basically be to make a faux snuff film.
Right.
Because of the atrocities that were committed,
Yeah.
and not against just Jewish people, but against like Romani, against fucking trans and queer people, against people of color.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
we talk about 6 million Jewish people killed during the Holocaust, but 12 million fucking people died, maybe more. We
Right.
just, and that kind of stuff gets whitewashed out of media because of corporate interests. They can't show it because if they did, then nobody would want to watch the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Because it's horrible. It's the
Yeah.
atrocity engine. The atrocity engine doesn't like it when you take photos of them.
And just real quick to go back, when you say red washing, can you provide a definition for that?
Red washing is when a piece of media soullessly puts in leftist talking points into whatever the piece of media is. So
Gotcha.
like The Boys is rightfully accused regularly of being a show that is red washed because it is made by a major multi-billion-dollar corporation, and a lot of the talking points that are in the film that are critiquing capitalism or critiquing American imperialism and hegemony, these things are maybe put in there by people who really believe it, but it is being propped up by an organization to make themselves look better on a leftist level.
Yeah.
And don't be wrong, I like The Boys. Like, I enjoy the show. It's just, I'm just pointing out that like it's made with a soulless.
Yeah, it's kind of like people have said that capitalism subsumes all critiques into itself.
Yeah, like, oh, you have a critique of this system? Well, here you go. There
I'll
you go,
sell
buddy.
it back to you.
Yeah, here, let me pat you on the head and be like, oh, there you go. Like, here, do you feel represented now? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, you know what? Like, it's great. Like, Squid Game.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The first season of Squid Game is pure, true leftist art because it's about how the fucking system is rigged to make us fight each other for the amusement of the billionaires at the top. But then come seasons 2 and 3 of Squid Game, for one, the creator of the show didn't want to do them.
Yeah.
Netflix made him come back. And so when he came back with fucking notes. He was like, I'm going to, like, I thought that season 1 of Squid Game was excellent for teaching people some, introduction to leftism.
Mm-hmm.
But the season 2 and 3, even though they were put out by Netflix, they were put out by a man who was bitter about the fact that capitalism had subsumed his creation. Because, you go get like your Squid Game themed fucking McNuggets from McDonald's or whatever the fuck, completely missing the point of the show. But we can all agree that those corporations do not understand that the show was made to pointedly fucking scathe them.
Right.
That's an example against maybe what I was saying earlier, which is that sometimes the big corporate produced shows can have real points that are made, and they're not red washed in that way. They're made by someone who has these things to say. But that's an exception that proves the rule, in my opinion.
Andor is similar too.
Andor is also similar, yes. Which again, put out by fucking Disney, which is what is this fucking anarchist show, anti-fascist show doing on fucking Disney Plus?
Yeah. It's wild.
But we can think of way more shows that kind of just wink and nod to the audience about it without really exploring it. Narkina 5, the prison in Andor, is probably one of the best examples of how fascism puts people in the cell and makes them keep themselves in there. Because all of the guards on Andor are away. They're off in the fucking security room.
Right.
There's only like 20 of them in the whole fucking facility. And they make senior prisoners oversee the lower prisoners.
Right.
And that in and of itself is the oldest trick in the book, because fucking fascism just takes notes from colonial racism.
Yeah.
Like, fascism grows out of the same rootstock that was sourced with the transatlantic slave trade. What did slave owners in the southern states do? They made other slaves slightly superior to the rest of the slaves, keeping everybody in line. Because when you trick the people that you've imprisoned into policing themselves, then nobody revolts. It's only when the mask slips and people see the cage bars that they revolt. And that's why capitalism is such a great prison.
Yep.
Because we all are enslaved to debt and to our jobs and to all of these obligations. And we have freedom. Like, I can go out and go to the fucking store and buy a pack of soda right now. But the society that I live in demands that I spend so much of my time working a menial job that doesn't get me anywhere, with just enough money to pay the rent, to pay the bills, to pay all of these things, that I might as well be fucking doing it for free and having all my meals given to me. Like, what is the difference between having housing and meals and just dropping the illusion of the money, and having a system that requires you to work in order to survive in that way? Like, it's the same thing. We've just made the bars invisible.
Just extra steps so that, hidden among those steps, the people in power can gain more power.
And then we completely drop the artifice entirely when we take a person who committed a crime and we put them in slave labor, which is allowed according to the fucking Constitution of the United States.
Yep.
So, like, we didn't abolish slavery. We abolished open air slavery, and then we just made anybody who committed a crime subject to it. So it's like we're in an open air prison of our own making in the rest of capitalist society, and then anybody who violates any rules for any reason, whether they be stealing for their own greed or stealing because they're desperate, or they kill someone out of malicious intent, or they kill someone because they had to, because they were in a position where they weren't given the social safety net or the resources in order to get out of an unsafe environment, and they had to take that matter into their own hands. Like, there are people who commit crimes because they are bad, but there are also plenty of people who just commit crimes because they had no fucking choice in the matter.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, well, I guess the choice was they can either put a bullet in their fucking head, or they go out and try and steal something from somebody because they have nothing else. But no, we're going to enslave all of them, and we're going to make you work a meaningless job that goes nowhere, and you never get promoted, and you get maybe a 23 cents raise a year if you're lucky, and that's not enough to keep up with inflation, and God forbid you ask for more, you entitled little fucking brat.
Right. And even if you don't commit a crime, if you just end up unhoused, that's criminalized.
That's a crime. If the act of being homeless is a crime in some states.
Yep.
Like just existing in a space and not having money. Like if I go to a restaurant and I just sit in the restaurant and I sit there and I don't buy anything, that's a crime. So if I don't have money, I'm committing a crime by just existing in a space.
Yep. This has been
Ari's leftist rant.
Yeah, this will all be cutting room floor content probably, but
Ari just had to go on a fucking rant.
No, that's fair. Like we gotta vent about this stuff sometimes.
This movie brought it out of me. Like
Yeah.
I'm only talking about it because of the things that this movie was bringing up. Like
Yeah, for sure.
This movie is not leftist.
Yeah, it's not like out of nowhere.
Right. Like I wouldn't say this movie is leftist. It's just that it has in it the very seeds of things that lead you down the path of leftist thought.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, oh my goodness. Okay, so 4 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped their head
Into a river and kissed a mermaid.
And was put as a fish tank on someone's display case.
In the spray tanned, bleach toothed, grease haired caricature of a producer.
Tune in next time.
Yeah. This really had some like interesting connections with the other stuff that we did.
It really did. It felt like its roots could like attach to the trees that are the other films that we've.
Yeah. This has been Emissaries from the Void with Ari Stell Hawthorne and myself, Tristan Bowersox. New episodes will be released every other week with short bonus content we're calling liminals in the off weeks. The intro music is Now I Hear Little Dreams by Captive Portal, and the outro music is Arcadia by White Bat Audio. You can find us on Blue Sky at Void Emissaries, and remember that's single M double S. You can find Ari as Obscurity on most platforms and me on Blue Sky and Letterboxd as TB McQueen. The latter is where you will find our watch list and suggest movies you'd like to hear us dissect. You can also email us at emissariesfromthevoid@outlook.com to give feedback, alternate takes on the movies we've discussed, questions, suggestions, etc. Emissaries from the Void is a Void Opal podcast produced by TB McQueen Creative. For something completely different, listen to my other podcast, Fan Fiction Theater.
As the world unravels under the weight of an immortal sorcerer's despair, Tula must confront the man who quite literally stole her heart. Along with a cunning demon bound to her by desperate choices, she journeys through a land scarred by destruction, seeking to be made whole again before darkness consumes everything. A tale of resilience, reckoning, and the cost of hope. A Bird for a Heart explores what it means to hold on to your humanity when the world demands you let it go. A Bird for a Heart is a fantasy fiction podcast, written and recorded by Michael J. Patrick.
Available wherever fine podcasts are found.